Today we're serving up a hearty helping of hope as we explore the amazing world of the Princeton Pantry. We'll talk about the history of the pantry, the staff and volunteers behind the scenes, and some of the needs they have, especially at this time of year. So grab your forks and let's dig into how this pantry is nourishing our community one meal at a time.
Welcome to the Princeton Podcast, where we talk about upcoming events, news, and local businesses. This is Princeton. Play here, stay here.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hey everyone, I'm Zach Kitzman here with Kim Young, Mary Patno. Today's podcast is brought to you by Federated Co-ops.
Today we'd like to welcome volunteer extraordinaire Randy Hatch to the podcast. Randy is the new chair of the Princeton Pantry Board of Directors and is here to share some information about the Princeton Pantry. Hi Randy.
Hi Mary, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being here.
Happy to have you.
Welcome. So there's lots to cover with
Yes,
the
there
Princeton
is.
Pantry. Maybe we could start with a little history. So tell us about the history of the pantry.
Well, Princeton Pantry had humble beginnings at Trinity Lutheran Church. It was just a little closet, really. It was established by Bill George, and there was a small cadre of people that joined with him. One of the people that joined quite early was Pastor Bob, and Pastor Bob has been was the leader for many years until this last year when I took over as the board chair. It was a new position, and we reconfigured our entire board structure at that time. So anyway, we moved from place to place until we finally purchased a small block building. You know where it is, right next door to the chamber here. And we've been in there for many, many years, but as time went on and the needs in the community grew, we found that we needed to either rent space or try to buy another space. And we diligently worked towards fundraising and building a new building for our own, but found it very difficult to raise the kind of monies that are needed for a really big facility like we wanted. But we did find some places to rent in malls, and we found we really liked it. It was great. In fact, the Princeton Mall, the mall used to be the George Mall. I don't know if that's the same. Mm-hmm. We were in there for a while, and we enjoyed that. We had an opportunity to move over to the Riverside Mall on the north side by Pizza Barn.
Yep.
And we really liked that. So once we got in there and had about a 3-year run in it, we decided at that point to purchase that space and to renovate it, and we're in the midst of that right now.
Nice.
So that's kind of our space. But the Princeton Pantry is over 40 years old, so
That's what I was going to ask when it started. Okay,
yeah,
so
1983.
40 years. Okay.
and from then it's grown and grown and grown, and so is the community and the needs therein.
So you said that you have purchased this spot over at the mall, but you also have the place here next to the chamber.
We do.
So why 2 locations?
Well, it's a good question. What happens, Kim, is we kind of split our operation into the needs that we had. One was for an emergency food shelf, the pantry, how it first started. And then something came along about 12, 13 years ago, which was a business model called food reclamation. As you probably don't know, or maybe you do know, that the food business in the United States is kind of a wasteful process. A good amount of food doesn't necessarily get into the mouths of people. It ends up in trash and unused, almost 30%. And that's a really big number considering all the food that's consumed every day. And so what transpired was the models where food shelves would start receiving foods before they were expired or close to expiration, and then they could distribute those foods, and they'd get credit for them, which was really good for stores. So instead of some minion at the back of a grocery store dumping out every gallon of milk that's expired, they would just hand it off to the food pantries in their local communities and get credit for it. Maybe not full credit, but certainly good credit in the form of tax breaks.
Okay.
And so that worked out in that way. And we became recipients of that about 2013, and it's really grown tremendously to a point now where food reclamation is about 75% of the pantry business.
So basically the reclamation food is food that is not shelf stable. I mean, this is stuff that's going to expire in a shorter amount of time.
Generally, yes, very
Okay.
much so. And so it's very, very important that food that comes to the food reclamation is taken up and used by consumers that day or the next day or within the week, depending on the items that are there. There are some exceptions. There are items at the food reclamation that we don't necessarily we don't have at the pantry because they're damaged goods in one way or shape. For instance, I have this in front of me, a demonstration model of a can of corn that's been dented. And because we're recipients of funds and support from the state of Minnesota, we're not allowed to give damaged items to people as an emergency food shelf.
Okay.
But at the emergency food shelf, a family comes in and they're interviewed and they're given a week or two's worth of food at a time. Where reclamation, you come in and you pick your own food. You get a grocery cart and you walk around in a bag and a box and you go out the door with your food, whatever you choose. And if you choose to take this can of corn, it may be a risk, I doubt it, but canned corn is pretty stable even if it's got a dent in it.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. And I would be putting that in my succotash in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's the kind of thing that we'd have at food reclamation rather than at the emergency food shelf.
Okay, I have a question about that. So you talked about like grocery stores getting close to expiration dates.
Yes.
So explain that a little bit. Does that mean like it's not bad?
No,
it's
it's-
just a sell by date?
It's a sell by date, and I'm sure all of you shoppers, when you go in the grocery and you look at the milk, you look and say, oh well, I'm going to reach to the back
Yeah.
and get the
Yep.
the longest shelf life I can out of my milk. Well, it ends up being that milk on the front just doesn't get taken, and it's like tomorrow's expiration date. Little secret: any dairy that says it's expiring tomorrow is still good for 5 more days.
Okay, that's what I was kind of getting
Yeah.
at. Like
Yeah.
it's just a sell by date. but
Another
it's
week.
Perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine another week. And you can always give it, and we always tell our folks, give it the smell test.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
It's okay. The price is right, considering it's all free.
Yeah.
It
And
works
so
out.
those are the kind of things that you get then. I was going to ask, what kinds of food do you get from the grocery
We
stores?
get a ton of perishables. We get both from the stores. We get things for the emergency food shelf and for food reclamation.
okay.
Both. In fact, the stores in town. Can I name them?
Yeah, definitely do.
Coburn's, Aldi's, Walmart, Quick Trip, and Heggy's Pizzas, which are top
Nice.
notch.
Yeah.
And so they're our big five that really support us, and they really keep us going.
Wow.
And those groups will give us a big variety of things. Sometimes they're items that aren't expired. They didn't sell real well. You have an example, uncured bacon jam.
Yes.
Kind of a different item.
It was first introduced to me by Randy as
Bacon.
pork jelly.
That's right, pork jelly.
It's like, gross. But classic uncured bacon jam sounds much more better.
Yeah,
It's all in the sales pitch.
that's right.
Right.
But
Put it on your bread in the morning.
Yep.
there are certain items that the stores will just pass on to us, maybe not sellable or at least not a high ticket item, and they would take up space in the shelves that they're not interested in having. So we do get some really stellar items. We also get items that are perishable that are really high dollar items, but they're at their date they should be moved on. I'll give you an example. There's a mango juice that we get quite often, and mango juices just aren't something that a lot of people in Princeton are probably looking for, and they're very expensive. And we see them quite often at the pantry in small quantities, and people are very happy to see that because you're talking a quart for maybe $10, and those things are
Wow.
are really really high sought after from our reclamation clients.
Didn't know that.
No, I
Yes.
didn't either.
So the emergency food pantry, there's the emergency food pantry. Most people would say it's the food shelf.
The food shelf, correct?
And then that's for people in need.
It's all of it is for people in need.
So
but
the reclamation, you have to be in need also to go there?
no,
or-
not necessarily, but you have to be in order to go to either place. You have to be a human being and eat food.
Okay.
That's the only criteria.
Because
we
the
have.
reclamation to me is like, we don't want this wasted. So anybody come get this and use
It
it.
is that way, and we've spent many years since the process started, trying to educate the community that you're really doing yourselves and us all a big favor, and the stores, by coming in and picking up this French bread that, yes, it was made yesterday, but it's not bad bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of those other perishable items that we need to move on. A lot of times we'll get items that are highly perishable, like breads items that are not, they don't have preservatives in it.
Like freshly baked.
Yes, and those are artisan breads, which are very expensive, but the stores don't hang on to them. They push them off to us because they need to go for the next batch that's coming in. And artisan breads are non-perishable, or are perishable, but they have they don't have preservatives in
Yeah,
them.
it seems like they mold faster.
Yeah, right.
it's like
So
eat
we
'em
push
fast.
those. That's just one of many, many examples we get.
I'm interested about Heggies. How do
So
they help? you?
Here's the deal. They have a factory and they make pizzas and they do a really good job, but sometimes they'll have some errors on the line, and they'll get a raft of pizzas that are the labels are folded wrong or backwards or mislabeled or not labeled at all. And so I'll get a six-pack package of a six-pack Hagee's pizza, which is 6 different meats, and it's a really great one. But the label's folded wrong. You can read half of it. Well, that's not a sellable item, and they would never put that out to their customers. But they're
Wow.
happy to shunt it over to a sale box, and we get several hundred at a time. That's usually how they deliver
You
it
are
to us.
Wow.
kidding.
And
so-
those last a long time in
They
your
do.
freezer.
We do put them in the freezer, and those are one of the great items that we have not only at the emergency food shelf, but also at the reclamation site, because we have so many, and they continue to feed us those in the hundreds regularly.
Nice.
So it's
Wow.
really important for us to do that,
Wow.
and it's good to keep that food moving all the time. Even though we could probably store pizzas for a long, long time, but we don't, because people like them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That is an incredible donation.
It's a great donation,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that, like Quick Trip, they give us a lot of deli items, and those things, if your sandwich was made yesterday, it needs to be out to you today or tomorrow at least. So those are things that are really, really important to keep moving. And that's just food reclamation. The emergency food shelf is our main space, but because of the way the food business works now, we get so much more of food reclamation, and people can go to both sites. And so you can come to the emergency food shelf and get your week or two worth of items, commodities, mostly shelf-stable items, beans, rice, noodles, those things, in canned goods, those things, peanut butter and jelly, they're really the staples of humanity.
Right.
But then you can go over to the reclamation site and get fresh lettuce, lots of fresh lettuce.
Yeah.
Dressings that come with it, we try to have those with, and they do donate that. So if you were to donate to the emergency food shelf a Thousand Island jar of dressing, we would probably take that and have it at the food reclamation site, because that's where the salad is.
Right.
It just makes good sense.
Yes. Okay.
And so, because we don't give salads out at the emergency food shelf.
Right.
So the emergency food shelf, though, you said that people come in and they do a little interview.
A very small interview,
Yep.
but we do need to keep. It's very important for the state and for other NGOs that we work with, like Second Harvest in the past, and we will work with them again when we finally get reinstated with Second Harvest.
Yeah.
Is that they want to have the data that goes with that, because it's very, very important to them. And we don't like data mine. We keep the information, but say if Kim should come to my emergency food shelf, she would go through the process and she would give her name and her address. We don't care where you live. You can live anywhere in the state of Minnesota. You can live in Wisconsin. You can live in Texas for all I care. If you're a person and you want food, you just come.
Yep.
And we'll interview you to know if you have ethnic needs, the size of your family, and how we'll provide food for that couple of weeks that you
I
need
see.
it.
Okay.
But we'll keep that data, and the interview is part of that. How many children in your family? How many seniors over 60? All the other things that is very data sensitive and important to Minnesota Department of Human Services and to Second Harvest.
Makes sense.
And so basically then from that point, then someone, volunteers or staff or whatever, put together,
They fill a box.
they fill a box
and
for
that's
a
cool.
couple weeks.
We have guidelines that there's so many cans of this for a family of 7, so many boxes
Okay.
of that for a family of 12, and they would fill that
I see.
container up, and then we would simply bring it out to the alleyway, and folks would come by with their cars, and we would set it in.
Okay.
And that's how that's managed. Food reclamation's completely different.
Right.
We run in the same hours, only 2 hours a day for 3 days a week. But at food reclamation, folks come in and we sit in a waiting room. We used to do a first come, first serve, but we found that a little bit problematic because the same people always came really, really
Yeah.
early. So we have a lottery system, and we do draw little tickets, and everybody gets to win.
Yeah.
kind of. And so people come in, and we do a lottery system, and then the first folks through will get the first shot at that uncured bacon jam. And if there's only one, that's
jelly.
the way it is, or pork jelly, whatever way you look at it. And a lot of the groups that donate to us, like, it's not uncommon to have cakes and sweets and all kinds of things that really aren't, I would say, your staples of life, but it's really nice to get a container full of donuts or
Sure.
Bismarcks. Quick Trip. They give us the most amazing amounts of donuts and regularly. So
I
it's
bet.
not a food item per se, but it is a food item.
Yeah.
And we're glad to help that. It's just part of it. So when you walk through, and you can come 3 days a week, we'd like people to come 3 days a week at the reclamation site if they would be so kind, especially seniors, people on a fixed income. It's an opportunity to just augment their food dollars.
Right.
And when you're done, you can go back to Quick Trip and do some shopping. You can go over to Coburn's and get the other uncured bacon jam or,
Yeah.
or whatever your needs are at that time.
The beef jelly.
Beef jelly, why not? Sounds good. So
Yeah. So, as far as staff,
we in the pantry it was all volunteers for a long, long time, and as the pantry grew, we had needs for more full-time people and part-time people that were more involved and helped us with getting the volunteer cadre together.
Yeah.
So we have 2 staff people, and we've had 2 paid staff people for a number of years. Shirley and Joyce do that work for us, one at the emergency food shelf and one at the reclamation site, because they're just that busy. And they kind of bring together their own groups and cadre of people. We have around 75 volunteers that work weekly.
wow, that's what I was going to
Oh, yeah,
ask
it's a
next.
huge bunch
Weekly.
of people. Weekly. Oh, yeah. And then we have other civic groups that fill in really big items, like the Lions are our pickup agent for Monday, because Monday is a really big day for us to get food from Coburn's and Walmart. And so they need a big staff. They probably have 6 or 8 guys that go around and grab up all the food that's donated to the food shelf and the reclamation site on that one day and make all that delivery before 1 o'clock, before we open. And then
Wow.
our other staff comes in and we manage all that, all the shelf stocking that needs to be done to get ready. Not so much at the emergency food shelf, but certainly at the food reclamation. We're trying to, and it is pretty much just a grocery store setting. And you go in and you do your shopping and pick the things you want, but it needs to be well kept.
Right.
And so the shelf stockers are another group that works with us. And then we have folks that just help shoppers. For instance, at the deli area, it's very common for us to get somewhere in the order of between 50 and 100 deli items. We'll have sometimes over 75 customers just at the reclamation site
In one day.
in one day.
Okay.
So it's very important that everyone is reminded that, we only can take one sandwich choice today
Right.
at the deli. And that's because those folks feel the need to fill their baskets, and we just need to say, well, let's just pick one today.
Right.
But sometimes it's pick one sandwich and a Haggis pizza, or we never let anyone leave without a full complement of food. And I will tell you that through all this time, including the pandemic and everything that's happened after the pandemic, and there's been a lot, there's no break in the service, there's no change in what we do, and no one goes away hungry. And we make sure that the needs of our community are filled.
Yeah.
It's really important.
That's amazing.
I-
It is amazing. I started in 2016 when I retired. I was a member of the board just because I was on the board with my church. My church, we're very, we have a large board, 15 members on the board, and most of them are community church relative persons that
Right.
work with that. And what happens is that at the time when I retired, I was able to jump in and just do a little volunteering. And so I spent a couple of days at the emergency food shelf. They didn't like me. I wasn't that good. And so maybe I was bossy. I don't know. Might be my history. But when I got over to the food reclamation site, I found my niche. I could sell salad very well. And salad is something that we get a lot of all the time. Highly volatile, has to get out that
Yeah.
day. And so the stores, if you don't have it on the shelves, you can't sell it. So they have a lot, and then they have a lot to give.
Right.
And so we got a lot, and it was just really so fun to push salads on everyone. And I finally got relegated to a space where I was kind of the greeter and the person that signed in new people, and I found my niche there. And so I've been doing that for a good number of years. And Shirley is glad to let me just go ahead, and I have a kind of a personal relationship with everybody that comes in.
Right.
I know them all by their first name, and,
Yeah.
and if I don't learn it right away, I will later on, and I always ask. But it's important that we get that data every single day. So 75 families come in, and I know Joe and Kim and Mary and Zach and all the other people that come in. And I say, is Mom still living with you? Or do you have 3 kids today, or do we have any extras? And there is a big change. Summertime changes families' structures. There's a lot of extended families, so I can't just assume that tomorrow Kim will come in and it'll be a family of 2. It may be a family of 4
Yeah.
for the week.
Well,
Right.
that's awesome, Randy, that you do that, and I think that relationship
Oh,
building is so
I love them. I just
important
love these
and-
people, and
Well,
they're
they
my
feel
family.
comfortable. Yeah.
Right.
It's really important to me that I want to say the most beautiful thing is to hear your own name,
Yeah.
by someone say your own name.
Yeah.
And so I like to greet them all that way and write down their name.
Yeah.
Well, it's only first names, that's all it is, and the
Yeah.
stats that go with it. It's really good for me.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that very, very much.
Well, and I'm assuming that you don't get rid of all of it in time.
We do have a trouble, especially this uncured bacon jam. No, that stays just fine. There are a lot of perishables that just are not, we have too many, or they're just not desirable for one reason. Collard greens, sometimes there's no one to take the collard greens, or okra, or my favorite, Brussels sprouts, I mean, sometimes you end up with those things. Or
Yeah.
sometimes
Try them.
we've
Brussels
just
sprouts,
had them so long, and they're not all of them are as good a caliber as they should be, or people want them to be. People are pretty fussy about fresh foods.
Yeah.
So we end up with a few extra things, but I can proudly say that we fill a little less than a garbage can of throwaway things
Okay.
every day at both sites, because what we do is what we can hand off to a local farmer, we do that, and we have a good deal of that. And what doesn't go to the farmer, what's even not worthy of that, we bring over to the community garden and we compost.
Oh, great.
Generally, we keep that stuff moving.
Okay.
We get other things besides food items. Walmart especially is very generous with clothing items from time to time. And so we have a space within the reclamation site. It's for homeless folks, and we hang on to backpacks, blankets, pillows, the kinds of things that you would need for folks that just don't have a place or are temporarily challenged in their deals. We have a great deal of teens that come in during the summertime. They don't have school, so there's no food for them, or there's no place for them to arrange for a couch to sleep on, and so they end up down in the park. And there are other opportunities that we can fulfill, and Shirley's very, very good at that. And that's kind of her strong suit. We all have our lane, I would
That's
say.
right.
So my lane is in the front and hers is on the back end. But if I see someone and I take their stats and they just don't have an address, that's fine.
Yep.
Well, then I know, and I make sure aware of that I have someone that might need their help, and she does that. She's really good at it. And Verna's she's our backup coordinator for the reclamation site. She's very good at chattiness, and she's like the hostess for the pantry, the inside of the reclamation site, and she'll determine what kinds of things people may need. And there are a few other items that are non-food items that are very important to families, adult diaper products, those types of things, feminine hygiene items. And we have some of that gets donated to us, and we do push that to the right people at the right time.
So that you know what you have and who might need it.
Yeah, but that's a Verna
perfect.
job, and
Yeah,
I stay out
that's
of her
great.
lane. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good time to take a break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
With colder weather setting in, it's time for some fall savings at the Federated Co-op Country Store off of 169. It might not be a bad idea to bring your snowblower in and get it serviced with the fall weather coming in. Snow is probably not too far around the corner, and if your snowblower is too far gone, they have new ones that you can pick up there at the store. They also sell feed for animals such as chicken, cows, horses, and even some deer blocks. Now, through November 30th, you can save up to $4,000 or 0% financing for 36 months with the new Landmaster UTV models. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Make sure you swing by the Federated Co-ops Country Store off 169, and let's get back to the podcast.
Well, Randy, let's talk about the hours. We've talked about it's a couple days a week for a couple hours. So why don't you explain how that works?
Actually, we are open 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Okay.
We are always open on the same days and always at the same times, and both sites are open at the same times as well. So you can visit both sites at the same day easily, because we run a lot of people through really fast. Even those 75 people or better that come to the reclamation site, usually it takes a little more than 20 minutes to a half an hour. And
You know what I think is really nice about that we haven't mentioned is at the reclamation site, they are located, just so people know, they're located, the easiest way to get to them is the back of the mall.
Yes.
So there's nice parking back there, kind of next to Rum River Auto.
it's the best. And
It's,
the city takes care of the snow plowing.
Right.
It's one of the things that we really examined when we did buy into the mall partnership, was the fact that it's all really taken care of. We don't have to mow any grass. We don't have to plow any snow. The city
Right.
takes care of us so well, and they're so good to us.
and there are people that they might not feel comfortable, at least the first time coming. And so it's nice that, they can park and you're right there when you walk in the
Yeah.
back of the mall there.
The stigma of the food shelf has been problematic for us, and food reclamation is not the food shelf per se. We do have an emergency food shelf, and for those that need it, that's wonderful. We'll take care of you. But food reclamation is just getting food out to the people that want it from the stores that want to give it. So
Right.
it's a win-win-win all the way
Absolutely.
around. But we're open 3 days a week. Mondays and Wednesdays we're open from 1 to 3.
Okay.
And then on Fridays, we have a morning segment. It's 9 to 11. So, but it doesn't take very long to run through, because you don't have to check out.
Right.
You just come through, and if you're picking your own stuff, you know what you want. I have customers that can walk through in less than 2 minutes
Yeah.
and do everything they need to do. And they know what we have and don't have. And I got to believe they run right down to Coburn's right afterwards, or Walmart, or Quick
Yeah.
Trip, and get their favorite donuts if they couldn't get them there.
And at
Yeah.
the reclamation center, do you bring your own bags or?
We have bags, and that's one of the stipulations that Minnesota Department of Human Services says we need to have brand-new packaging
Brand
bags
new.
for.
Okay.
But if you want to take a box, and we'd love you to take cardboard boxes, because we get oodles of them.
Sure.
On an easy delivery day on a Monday, we may get 50 to 100 boxes from Walmart full of food.
Wow.
And I have to get rid of those boxes.
Oh.
So we really play hell trying to.
I feel like people are
Flam-
always looking for boxes.
I do,
Well,
too.
I
come
could take
to
a
us
couple.
and give you some. I'll give you banana boxes. They're
Yeah.
really great, and we have them. We keep 20 or so on hand all times, so that we can pass those foods that are no longer usable to the farmer. And then on the weekend, we clear everything out. So Friday at the reclamation site, there's nothing left. We
Okay.
clean that out every day. It's necessary, but we'll keep a little bit of things on Monday, we'll keep till Wednesday, and a little bit on Wednesdays till Friday, and then
Everything's
Friday,
gone.
we pass it on. And there are other
Wow.
food support mechanisms, groups that we support as well. So it's not uncommon for a church group or a small community group to come and pick up the last of the French bread and take it with them for the weekend. And so more people get it.
Yeah.
We're not a food warehouse per se, but we are a group that will certainly, rather than sending that to the farmer, I would much rather send it off to another church for the weekend, and maybe they
Right.
can figure out something to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the holidays coming around too, does that change anything?
Oh, boy, does it ever. Thanks for asking, Zach. We have a holiday food drive. We don't call it Christmas, but we do have food baskets, specialty baskets for families for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. And we send out letters, over 100, to different groups within the community that have supported us very well in the past. Of course, we do go to our stores and ask for the best deal we can get on chickens and turkeys and all those things. But, groceries are pretty high now. And so our target for this year, in other years we've had as many as 180 to maybe 150, 180 family baskets. This year, because of donations being quite down and just the cost of groceries, we're targeting 50 families this year.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we'll go just to the emergency food shelf lists, the people that are been there, and we'll look for those bigger families. Family of 2, we're probably going to just pass on this year because of the cost of food. But anything bigger than that, especially with children, we'll try to fill in baskets. And we sent out our letters of request, but it's not uncommon for us to spend between $4,000 and $5,000 just for the holiday baskets every year. And we're hoping to get more cash donations. But, if you want to fill a basket with a turkey and a few other things, we can freeze it, and we'll make sure that everything's ready. And we'll have a distribution staff that'll put together that nice basket or bag or box, and then those families will be notified, and they'll come and get that holiday
Yeah, that's
meal.
what I was going to ask. If you're looking for people to put together entire baskets, or
Either way,
A little of both?
We won't turn any of that away. We're
Okay.
glad. But some of those groups are able to give more than others, and others just would ask me. I had a nice group, the Civic Betterment Club, asked, well, what can we do? And I said, well, I have a family of 12 that could really, really use that kind of help, but this is far more. A family of 12 is a really great big Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if that's your target and you want to really help, do that. And,
Right.
And they are, and that's really
Oh,
wonderful.
cool.
So those are the kinds of things. But yeah, cash is always great because we're going to go buy whatever we don't get donated.
Yep.
Right.
And we're going to make sure those 50 families get that.
what about gift cards?
You know,
You prefer not,
I know
or-
that we do get gift cards from time to time. It's not really my area to manage because we let the coordinators handle that.
Yeah.
So I can't give you a great answer on that.
Okay.
We don't give gift cards out to our clientele.
But you could use them to
We
purchase.
probably could to
Yeah.
purchase, correct? yeah.
Okay, and I'm looking at this letter right now, and it looks like holiday food items for those of you that feel the need or could donate: frozen turkeys, hams, potatoes, stuffing, sweet potatoes, cranberries, frozen pies, anything.
Those kinds
anything
of
holiday
we really
stuff.
want to target that specifically. You can come and get your uncured bacon jam anytime.
Right,
else, but-
anytime.
yes, but we do have ethnic groups that need to be fulfilled as well. So we fill vegetarian families. We do have 1 or 2 that come in, and they're big ones too, by
Yep.
the way. And so there's a need for every kind of food.
Sure.
And we're really glad to take any donation. We'll find the right place for it, whether it's
Yeah.
the emergency food shelf or the reclamation site.
And Randy, you and I work together closely on Light Up Princeton, in which we've always included the pantry every year.
I
Yeah.
was amazed that you guys, even unsolicited, the chamber just came out and supported us amazingly right away. And once I got wind of that, I said, I want to be part of that group because, man, it's for us. And I made sure that the board understood too that it was really important for us to show up. So we in the first years of Light Up Princeton, we showed up and we would pick up the food items that were delivered, and so they wouldn't freeze, and bring them into the pantry, and it just became such a loving operation. So
right, so, yeah.
we're really deeply involved in that, and I enjoy the lights and the peoples and the kids.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. Even dog treats.
Even dog treats. So just for anyone that doesn't know, we Light Up Princeton is a free event.
Free event.
And people can give free will donations or non-perishable items to the food pantry, and we collect those at the as you leave the fairgrounds this year.
Yes.
We collect those as people leave. This year, we will also have some locations where where you can look for Christmas boxes where you can drop off non-perishable items for the food pantry as well. So that will be coming out.
That's great. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. Anything that you can do for the pantry, I must say, because I would be remiss if I didn't, is that donations have been down this last year. It's been difficult. We've had some PR issues and just groceries in general are very expensive and people are having a hard time.
Yep.
And so donations are down considerably, but we're not going to let that affect what we do. We do have cash reserves and we use them, and we make sure that the needs are met.
So if there's not a drive going on, like late at Princeton or these places where you can bring food, can we just drop it off during hours?
You can anytime during hours.
Anytime during
the
hours you
best.
can- okay.
Yep, is
Okay.
best. And then you're seeing the coordinators, and they know right what to do and how to handle that. You'll get a receipt if you're doing any kind of cash, or even if you're donating your own produce. It's very common for us to get sweet corn, vegetables from the garden, that's how Reclamation started, was just donations from the community, and it grew and grew and grew to this point. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
What
I'm
about
glad-
volunteers? You have a lot. Do you need more?
We always need volunteers, although we find that a lot of their volunteers need to have some abilities. You need to be able to lift about 25 pounds.
Sure.
That's kind of a minimum. Although we do have spaces for other volunteers, even like me, I don't lift anything, but I suppose I could. I don't want to. But there's always a need for more volunteers, and we have a call list, and the two coordinators that we have, Shirley Hines and Joyce Newman, will manage all that, and they'll share that knowledge if they have needs. So it's two separate run operations, but they're quite linked together.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you take groups in, like, for example, on Fridays to help clean out the reclamation center?
From time to time, when we have a volunteer group that wants to help us, we're glad to have them.
Okay.
All the freezers and fridges need to be cleaned out, and especially at the reclamation site, that's a pretty regular affair. So when groups want to come in, or just individuals, we certainly have people that just want to come in and help us for a few minutes in a morning, and we're glad to have those. So we would take that. We have a lot of construction projects we're working on. The next thing is paint in the reclamation site. After we purchased, we've added new lighting, new ceilings. It needed a lot of work, and still needs a lot of work. We've created what we call the food triage space, where we have food that needs to be rescued. It's not uncommon to receive a 10-pound bag of potatoes that doesn't smell very nice. Well, that's fine. That we're glad to take it, because 99% of those are good potatoes. There's just one that's not good. And so the triage area is where we dump everything out and wash it all off and throw the bad one away, and then we shovel all that stuff up. You're not going to see that happen at Coburn's or anyplace else.
Right.
Yeah.
No one handles
Throw it.
food like that.
Yeah.
So we do that. It's a food rescue.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to be contacting you. I'm always looking for volunteer opportunities for my volleyball team. And any coaches out there listening, this is a great opportunity to bring your team in and schedule something, get some volunteer hours in
Yeah.
for those
Fantastic.
teams.
We can use it.
Yeah.
Well, Randy, thank you. I know that you are extremely busy, and you do a lot of work around our community, and we appreciate it. So thanks for being with us today.
Oh, I'm
This
so
is
glad
really
that
interesting.
you could have us, and that we could talk about our pantry.
Yes.
It's a very, very important part of our community that's kind of transparent to most, and they really don't understand
Yeah.
how it all works, but just know that it's working every single day.
That's right.
you.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, this is Kim, Zach, and Mary signing off. This is Princeton. Stay here, play here. Podcast produced by Kitzman Creations. Music by Charles Moe. Be sure to subscribe to the Princeton Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, to view our awkward moments, check us out on our YouTube channel and visit us at www.thisisprincetonmn.co.